I'm Lauren from Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Universe fan show, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other incredible geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
Welcome back to On the Bubble podcast. Today is an audio essay, a personal essay from myself, titled Wednesday Season 2 and Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 Weren't Worth the Wait. And that makes me sad. As someone who really enjoyed Wednesday Season 1 and absolutely loved Season 1 and 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, I'm just, as I mentioned, sad to report that neither show has made me feel all that excited with their latest seasons. I realise that hardcore TV fans can get sucked up into a particular universe or mythology, love it a whole lot in the moment, and not so much maybe 6 to 12 months later. I personally had that same experience with Smallville. Looking back, I really only loved the Luthers in the early seasons, and in terms of rewatching the show, I really only enjoy seasons 8 to 10, which I know isn't a popular opinion, but I wouldn't watch season 1 through 7 unless I wanted to see a little bit more Luther action. But I was genuinely excited to watch Wednesday Season 2, and even more so Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, because I enjoyed both shows so much more than I expected to when I first watched the previous seasons. They were just more enjoyable and more engrossing than I thought they were capable of, to be honest, which made me happy. But that baseline of quality, particularly in Star Trek, hasn't flowed through to their latest seasons. And that, and I won't keep saying this, makes me sad. I'll mostly be talking about Strange New Worlds today, as I feel Wednesday as a show is perhaps more mood dependent. And who knows, one day in the future I could find myself in a really darkness adjacent mood, which is perfect to enjoy Wednesday and maybe find myself getting into the show. So before I say anything else about Strange New Worlds, I feel that I need to say this. I really wanted Season 3 to be amazing. I didn't want it to be horrible. I'm not one of these angry YouTuber people that wants everything to suck and for it to fail. I wanted it to be great. How great? Well, I wanted it to be in the ballpark of the Orville Season 3, or any season of The Expanse. But not only is Strange New Worlds Season 3 not in the ballpark, it's not even playing in the pros. This latest season feels rushed, disjointed, void of real stakes outside of the first episode of Season 3, and that baseline of quality that I mentioned earlier hasn't flowed through episode to episode into Season 3. For the most part, I blame the gap between seasons, guys. Writers and crew, cast all change, not so much that they get changed out for other people, or they leave the show, but more so they change as creatives, as humans. The longer the gap, the more different each person is coming back into the show. Their enthusiasms as a collective can change. Their focus can change. Expectations from the network can change. Budgets, creative support, all of those things can have an impact on how good a television show is when it comes back after a long gap. And I think more than anything, if you have a 23-month gap between releases of a TV show, the expectations from the audience, which I'm definitely in that camp, I thought it has to be great to justify how long it's been. It can't not be great. It has no option but to be awesome. And anything less than awesome feels like it's actually awful. Too much pressure for everyone involved. We had well fleshed out characters like Spock, Captain Pike, Nurse Chapel, Dr. Mbenga, even great peripheral characters like the Vulcan T'Pring, whose presence on screen was always captivating. They seem to have had their motivations clouded slightly in Season 3, their character development stalled, their individual character arcs de-emphasized to a certain degree, and in my opinion, that's all to the detriment of Strange New Worlds. Perhaps the longer the gap between seasons of a TV show, the higher the risk that the key creative drivers of the show, writers, producers, directors, editors, they lose touch with what really made fans gravitate to the show in the first place because they've been displaced in time. So I will make a note here. I actually love the development of Leanne in season 3. But beyond her character, there hasn't been a lot of great performances from an acting point of view and or a lot of great character or story arcs thus far in season 3. So I wanted to emphasize 2 shows that I believe actually did handle massive gaps in production, even troubled productions from season to season, and produced some of the best television of the last 10 to 15 years. So the first show is The Orville, season 3, which also lives firmly inside the sci-fi genre, and the other show is Banshee, the action crime drama. They presented the solution, the answer to the question, what can be done to really win over an audience when there's been a massive gap in production of a TV show? And that answer is, you have to make an incredible season of television. Nothing less will do. Banshee is one of the best TV shows ever made, full stop. Every season had a moment of majesty or multiple moments where you're like, wow, that's incredible television. But it also had an incredibly high baseline of quality. So their worst moments or worst episodes were still as good as most shows' best episodes. And if you're going to have a huge gap in production, that needs to be the aim. And I think The Orville, although different in tone and delivery and style to a show like Banshee, they produced a very touching, meaningful season of television. The writing matured, the stakes went up, the jokes were still good when they were there, but they didn't rely on them as much as they had in earlier seasons to elevate weaker concepts and episode ideas up to a decent level. They just had a perfect season, in my opinion. And I don't think anyone was expecting The Orville to have this magisterial season 3. But they did it. And the reason they did it is because they knew they had to, as much as anything. Seth MacFarlane knew fans of The Orville have been waiting years for this show. It can't be anything but frigging incredible. And that's what they did. So guys, I know it sounds trite to say what I'm about to say about television, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you aim for incredible, you might just hit great. Season 3 of Strange New Worlds feels more like they aimed for safety and they hit suitable. I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but suitable is not good enough to justify my time. So Paramount, if you're listening, if anyone out there has any sway with Strange New Worlds, just know we want this show to be great. But please give the fans what they want. Give us more Nurse Chapel and the Doctor. Give us more Spock being awesome. And more so than anything, please, remember Captain Pike is on this show. He needs to be doing more epic stuff, not just cooking dinner and serving up the occasional funny line for other characters to bounce off. This is a slight spoiler, guys, but young Captain Kirk has had more impactful screen time in Season 3 than Captain Pike has. That isn't good enough. It needs to be better. And The Orville is a recent example of being better, being great. Now, I'll finish up with this. To the Star Trek fandom more broadly, I realise that Strange New Worlds lives within an established universe with established lore, and that Strange New Worlds really should always be playing respectfully within that lore. They shouldn't just go off and create an entire universe of television built on non-canonical convenience. But with all that said, if you give the characters we love most some great arcs, some great development, you up the stakes across the entire season, and you apply a slightly harder filter to some of those one-off concept episodes, it might be a cool idea, but does it really make this show better? If you do all those things, Season 4 is going to be awesome. You've got an incredible cast. The special effects are incredible in this show. Just please do this. Go away, watch Season 3 of The Orville half a dozen times if you need to, and get a feel for just how great a modern sci-fi show can be. You don't have to be Battlestar Galactica or The Expanse to be great. You can be season 3 of The Orville and be great. So just go do it. Righto. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening to this audio essay. Now I hope in the not too distant future I can come back to you guys and all I have to say about season 4 is live long and prosper. Cheers.